Let's return to our story that Trump's statement towards African leaders. We've been following that on earlier. Let's cross now live to Emmanuel Gonkoi, Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters of Liberia. Emmanuel, I'm glad to have you join me now. All right, as it is right now, during his lunch with African leaders, Trump made several statements about how rich with resources the continent is and how he would like to develop an economic partnership. Do you think the U.S. president is really interested in mutual beneficial ties with Africa?
No, certainly I don't believe that. First, let me appreciate RT television channel for the invite. Regarding the U.S. president meeting with African leaders at the White House on yesterday and then today, I honestly don't believe that the current draft, from the U.S. president is in good faith. I think it is still this this colonial package, that they are trying to package for Africa. I don't think that he's driving any economic policy that will mutually benefit Africa and the U.S. I don't believe so.
Right. So during the meeting, Trump asked the leader of an English-speaking nation about how he learned that language so well. Do you think Trump simply wasn't aware that Liberia's official language is English?
I think honestly, I was shocked myself, considering the history between the U.S. and Liberia. For a certain U.S. president to not have a clue that Liberia is an English-speaking country, I was taken aback. I don't think Trump was in the right mind to ask that kind of questions. I think he was lost. I think because he was not in a good faith handling the meeting with the African leaders. I think because he was much more concerned about what the U.S. Can benefit from Africa and not particularly interested in the history of Africa. Because had he been interested in the history of Africa, he would have known that Liberia is an English-speaking country, and more to that, Liberia, to some extent, has a deeper relationship with the United States of America, considering that Liberia, independent, came from, free slaves, that came from Black America that settled down in Liberia, that, self-declared independence. I think he would have known that. But because he was so much focused on what he can get from the African leaders at this stage, he was not interested in knowing our history.
Well, if we have to be very specific and critical here, Liberia was founded by the American Colonization Society in the 1800s. You just talked about this now. Why do you think Trump wasn't aware of the history between the United States and Liberia?
Because Trump is more concerned about how he can exploit Africa at the moment. You followed Trump, visit to the Middle East the other day. You followed Trump when he had a conversation with the Ukrainian president. It is just all about how the U.S. new policy, quote-unquote new policy on the Trump administration, how that policy can then be translated into a kind of imperialist tools that will then exploit Africa once again. I think that's what Trump is most interested in, not the history of Africa.
And there was another notable flop by Trump. Let's take a look at this.
There's a lot of anger on your continent. We've been able to solve a lot of it. My administration is committed to strengthening our friendships in Africa through economic development efforts that benefit both the United States and our partners.
Right. So where could that supposed African anger possibly be coming from? What do you think is the source of those tensions?
Well, I don't think, look, every tensions on the continent has always been fueled by Western imperialism and Anglo-Western imperialism. this drive for the natural resources on the continent has always been the source of the conflict on the continent. So for President Trump to say that there's so much anger on the continent, that anger is fueled by this drive for Africa's natural resources. If you look on the continent, who are those that are benefiting from our resources? Just look on the continent. You either find France, you either find the US, or you either find Great Britain, you either find Germany. Those are the people that continue to fuel the conflict on the continent. Those are the people who continue to create the anger on the continent. They are the ones manipulating the minds of other Africans and going against other Africans simply because they want to control the resources on the continent. So if President Trump spoke about so much anger and tensions on the continent, they are the one that created the anger. For example, I give you an example. See what the U.S. African Force Command said about Ibrahim Traoré just a few weeks ago, about the U.S. African Force Command threat against Ibrahim Traoré. Why are they threatening Ibrahim Traoré? It is because they feel now that the gold in Burkina Faso is not landing in the hands of Western corporations and Western enterprises. So because of that, they are currently issuing threat against Ibrahim Traoré. They are telling him that he's not using the goal of Burkina Faso in the right directions. So they are the one that always create the tensions on the continent. So Africa is not just waking up out of the blue sky to create tension because they want to create tension, but somebody is sitting down somewhere and trying to influence the decisions on the continent.
All right. Trump also said that he wants African countries to buy more U.S. weapons. Now, what do you think about that? Are American arms a solution to conflicts in Africa, or will they only exacerbate the situation?
Well, I would say to you, these situations of trying to influence Africans to buy weapons, from the U.S., it's just creating more problem for Africa. It's exacerbating the tensions on the continent. It's trying to create more war. Because I believe that if we drive Africa in the perspective of peace, there will be no market for U.S. weapons. Nobody will have time for U.S. weapons because we'll be transitioning from conflict to a more economic cooperation, more economic benefit for the African continent, and we will not have interest in buying U.S. weapons. So Trump is now pitching this idea of, look, African countries will not have to come to buy our weapon. We are not interested in buying weapons. We are interested in utilizing technology. We're interested in utilizing science to be able to take millions of people on the continent out of poverty. The issue of African buying weapons should not be a conversation at a stage because what we're interested in on the continent is how we can take our people out of poverty and how we can create jobs. We have very youthful populations on the continent, and most of our people are languishing in poverty. You see Africans dying every day in the Red Sea. You see people capturing African migrants in the Red Sea in the name of boat capture. People are deliberately murdering our people in the Red Sea, in the Atlantic Ocean. Our drive now on the continent is to ensure that Africa enjoys some level of economic prosperity. We are not interested in anything that has to do with buying weapons from the U.S. I think that was a wrong proposal.
All right. Previously, Trump had someone interpret Indian English speech into American English. Now, do you think such an action would be conducive to promoting relations between countries?
I think that is being sarcastic. For President Trump to say that. I watched that video and I was like, what is he talking about? Because that English was much more understandable. So for President Trump to say, look, somebody will have to come to interpret this English. I think that was sarcastic. I think that is just Trump's own approach of how he subdued people at the White House. I think the White House is no more a White House of leadership. This White House is a White House of a suppressive theory that once somebody enters the White House, you must be suppressed to working in line with Trump in the protocol or Trump or ideas. So I think that was not a good way of promoting bilateral relationship. I think that was not a good way of presenting a country with much more dignity. I think that was very, very denigrating. And that cannot support any bilateral relationship, any group in any bilateral relationship.
All right, we have to leave you here now. Emmanuel Gonkoi, Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters of Liberia. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the interview. Look forward to many more interviews
Thank you.
on your platform.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Thank you.